Due to the COVID pandemic, the module is presented online this year again. In most such online lectures, you will probably find that your lecturers or professors use online slides, and if you want to see what they look like, you have to look at their pictures on the website. There is my picture, so at least you know what the person looks like talking to you. As I said, most people prefer to present their lectures using slides. I don't really like using slides, so I'm afraid I will have to present your lectures showing you my face, and sometimes artifacts and slides and whatever else may be deemed necessary. One of the things that very few people are aware of is the extent to which networking has changed our lives over the last couple of decades. Not so long ago, shopping on the internet was unheard of. In fact, much of the internet was controlled by the military, and later on much of the internet was funded by the National Science Foundation in the United States, and they didn't want to see commercial traffic on that network. So Amazon only opened its store in about 1997. In fact, one of my students wrote a little paper many years ago about the ability of possibly building a shop, an online shop on the internet. It's hard to think about times like those. Over the years also, when I presented networking modules, I tried to bring things to a classroom where I could demonstrate networking to people. I remember at some point I was using a system that was known as Beltel. And Beltel is a service that was provided by the then post office, and you could dial in using a modem, and you could access all sorts of services. And those services that you could access were things like online banking. And most people have never heard of online banking, but those of us who were using this Beltel system, which, by the way, was based on a system that was known as Prestel elsewhere in the world, we were able to do banking online. And I could take my computer to a classroom and show people how to do online banking. And they would say, wow, that's nice. I want to be able to do that. At some point, I set up a couple of computers, and I registered a couple of email addresses, and I showed people, students in class, how one could send an email from one computer to another computer. And they said, wow, that's great. We want to be able to do that. We want email addresses. On another occasion, I took this new web thing to class, and I showed people, students in class again, how you could look up things on a system that was known as the web. And the students said, well, that looks like fun, maybe we'll try it one day. It's not all that long ago that these things were able to impress students, that they were able to tell students, here is something that the future holds. Now we are presenting this module online. And for many people, this would mean that the future has arrived. With the pandemic, classroom teaching may not be the best idea, and we are trying to convey the same content to you as we would have conveyed in a classroom setting. Obviously, if we use a video mode in the way that I'm using it, it is a one-way communication. there is no way for you to communicate back, speak back to the video. Whether that is a benefit or not, we don't know yet. I know that some people, especially when we get to the more technical parts of this module, take the video and then they pause it, rewind it even, replay a part of it. If they didn't quite understand the point, they're able to do that. It's hard to do that in a classroom. Yes, in a classroom you can ask questions, which you can't really do here on the spur of the moment. So we are winning something and we are losing something. Also, we will not only be using this video facility, we will be using facilities where you can interact with me and where we can in real time talk to one another. Again, the technology has developed to that point where we can do that. As I've said, perhaps the future has arrived. In fact, one of the interesting things that I've noticed over many years is the following. Many years ago, students used to come to my office regularly. If they walked past my office, they would drop in and we would be able to chat. If they had a question about the work, then they could do that. They could drop in and chat. And I often had students in my office. But over the years, the number of students who visited me in my office declined significantly. In fact, the classes have become bigger and bigger and bigger. And now with this online mode of presentation, who knows how big they will eventually become. But as the classes became bigger and bigger, I found that fewer and fewer students came to talk to me. And that I found to be a problem. What I do find is that students prefer to send emails, but they prefer to send texts and so on. So it does raise the question, do they find interpersonal communication hard if it is not in an online mode? Do they prefer to send emails rather than walk into that scary office that I once used to occupy and then ask questions directly to me? Now, you may know that with emails, a number of problems exist. At the moment of recording this, we are talking about the riots that took place in the U.S. Capitol not too long ago, and it recently emerged that an email was sent by the FBI to, I think, the Capitol Police about the imminent attack on the Capitol. However, that email was not read, was not received. It simply didn't have its intended effect to prepare the Capitol Police for the attack that was to follow. Why not? Well, one gets so many emails. What we are seeing is an increase in a preference for network usage, but also a decline in interpersonal communication. In fact, one of the things that I've seen so often is where a number of young people are at some sort of a party and they all sit there with their cell phones and they are sending messages to other people, often people who are not present at that party. So where they are physically present, they are not communicating, but they are present in cyberspace at some other location, and that's where they're communicating. One of the things that I'm finding more and more is that I'm getting invitations to all these various webcasts, and very often they seem very, very interesting. I really, really want to look at them, but I am spending so much time in front of a computer screen that I just don't have the energy to sit down and watch something else online. Well, that's a question. Do you experience the same? And obviously I can't hear your answers, but that's something that you have to think about. Now, we can also use networking for bidirectional communication, to interact. And we will also do that in this module. However, it will be interesting for you to sit down and just amongst one another, even if you have to do it via some online medium, begin to explore how much do you miss social interaction, if at all. Are your social interaction needs met by the ability to meet online because that is your normal mode of interacting? Am I just a dinosaur from a previous generation who can no longer cannot really interact in this online mode? And so to send out a video like this, that's fine. That I seem to be able to do. But interaction, in particular with something like email, we have to sit down and read the various messages and compose answers and so on. I just can't do that. And short messages, instant messages, are just too short for me. I need context. I can't communicate in phrases. I need sentences. I need paragraphs. I need pages. So, where do you see yourself? Where do you fit in this bigger online environment? Are you a network native who lives in this world and who knows exactly how to interact and to find everything hunky-dory? Or are you a person who is getting lost in all of the screen time? I guess that sounds like a very negative start for a module on networking. So perhaps we should give a step back and think about the positives. As I've said, we are indeed able to continue education at the moment, whereas previously we would probably have had to cancel lectures for a year, for 2 years, or to face the danger of infection. Also, the ability to do things online are just amazing. I can basically do all my banking online. I can buy things online, shop online. I can look at my various insurance policies online. It's not a problem. I can file my taxes online. Okay, that's a bit of a problem, but at least it is a bit simpler than it used to be. And in the past, I often had to drive over to the receiver of revenue or the SARS office late at night, the evening before the tax filing was due, and drop the envelope into their post box at their offices. Now, even if it's just before midnight, I can say click, and I've submitted it. So life has become easier in the sense that we don't have to go out, often into dangerous places, and we are able to continue with our lives. We are able to do many things online. In fact, many people are moving to rural areas where they are avoiding the stress of being on the roads every day, and as long as they have a proper internet connection, they can interact with whatever they need to do. People are beginning to live simpler lives. It may also be a richer life. You may be able to learn things that you've never been able to learn, given the variety of content that is made available via the internet. Perhaps we should talk about that at some stage as well. What's going to happen to the internet? Because one of the things that I am predicting, and I think you'll see more and more of this, is that the internet started out as a place where most content used to be free. But that's going to change. You're going to pay for more and more of your online consumption. So when you look at the benefits of what you can do online, don't put it being free or just paying for the bandwidth as very high on your list. Because fewer and fewer people are going to provide content without some form of reimbursement. And when that happens, you will see more and more paywalls, more and more places where you have to pay for content. I've also watched a video on YouTube just this morning. Was very, very interesting, except that they had all the facts wrong. So it's another problem. How do you know that what you're getting free of charge is indeed the truth? So I guess I started out on a rather negative note, then moved back to a more positive note, but immediately drifted back to a more negative note again. One of the advantages that I mentioned of the internet is the ability to do your work anywhere, anytime. Now, that definitely has its advantages. It also has its disadvantages. I'm sitting here late on a Sunday evening and I'm teaching. Now, Sunday evenings were never supposed to be work evenings for most of us. Sunday evenings, at least in the world from where I come, tended to be the most relaxed evening of the week. Yes, you were looking up to the Monday morning when you had to go back to the work. But Sunday afternoons, Sunday evenings used to be calm and relaxed places. But in order to get everything done that I need to do, I had no other option than to record this on a Sunday evening. And I'm able to do it, and hence I do it. So I cannot go home from work. I have my network here right in front of me in my home, and therefore I can keep on working. And rather than having normal cycles, we have a busy week and calm weekends, things tend to remain on a much more level field. Those natural breaks do not occur as they used to occur. And maybe we need them as human beings. We should also say something about the manner in which this module will be structured. Our intention with this module is to enable you to talk about networks. So the idea is to teach you the language of networking, so that when you are in a context, in an IT context where networking is being used, and it's hard to think about the context where it is not being used, to enable you to talk to the technical people who are involved in networking. We're not going to try and make you network experts through this module, but hopefully we will be able to let you interact with people who are the network experts. And who knows, maybe you will take this as your starting point and become a network expert. And it is a really, really satisfying job for many people to work in networking. The manner in which we will approach this is to talk about network in general. We'll just set the scene. That's what I'm, amongst others, trying to do this evening. But we will also begin to look at the operation of networks. And you will soon see that networks are built in a layered fashion. And that gives us a very easy structure for the module. Once we've made our introductory remarks in the next video or 3, we will start moving down the stack, down the layers, down what we will call the protocol stack. A protocol, as an aside, is an agreed upon convention. So a protocol is a way of doing things. In real life, you often have a protocol that says if you were to, let's say you are introduced to the president of a country, then you are supposed to address the president in a certain way and so on. And that interaction, that recipe for how you should behave, is a protocol. In networking, it is the same idea. It is when two parties interact, those parties should behave in an expected manner so that they can indeed communicate in a meaningful manner. And the rules that govern that communication is known as a protocol. So if we are moving down the protocol stack, then it means there are protocols that are classified on various levels, and on each level we will say something about that category of protocols. So it should be very easy for you to know exactly where you are in the module. In fact, we are going to use the ISO OSI model that we will talk about a little bit later. It has 7 layers. So once we've made our introductory remarks, we will start at layer 7 and then gradually work our way down to layer 1, and the semester will be over. This brings us to the end of our first short video for this module. Hopefully I've given you a couple of thoughts about which you are excited. Believe me, it is exciting to develop software for networks and to see that message coming across the network and flowing into your machine. If at all possible, when you write your software for networking, don't use the network on your own machine. Rather, use it from your machine to another machine, from your computer to a cell phone or whatever, so that you can see how the message actually leaves one machine and arrives on another machine. That, as I've said, is exciting. Also, networking presents us with problems that are often really, really hard to solve. And once you've debugged that software, or once you've entered the parameters, once you found the solution to the problem, it fills you with a feeling of excitement because you have really solved a technical problem. I think people working in networking experience a lot of frustration because they struggle to solve a problem, but that is followed by that blissful feeling when you solve the problem, when you get the programs to talk to one another as they should. It's really a good feeling, and I hope you experience that. To the best of my knowledge, networking, especially the more technical sides of networking, is also one of the more sought after skills in IT. And therefore, it may provide you with better job security, it may provide you with a higher salary than many other disciplines. But that's when you've become an expert in networking and you really are able to keep a network running, and especially to get it running again if it has failed. So do consider it as a career option. Besides these things that hopefully will make you excited, I also mentioned a couple of negatives, a couple of social implications about which you have to think. And we're not going to talk about those too much in this course. In this module, we will be talking about our network's work. We'll be talking about the technical aspects of it. But as we go along, do think about the various social implications of what we are talking about. Do you think about the various social implications of using networks in general? Perhaps we can even make it a challenge. How do you humanize networking more? And by humanizing, I am not talking about augmented reality or getting people more embedded, more in touch with the computer. No, I'm talking about ways in which we can employ networking to get people to interact on a physical level with one another again. People to talk to one another in the physical space rather than in cyberspace, because that is essential for us as human beings. As noted, we won't say too much about that, but it is something for you to think about if you want to enjoy a career in information technology. I'll see you soon, and then we'll talk about more technical aspects of networking.
Music,